Let me give everybody one more minute to get in here. Today we're doing 1.5b, so that's what you'll need today for your notes. All right, so today is 1.5b. So it's yesterday we really introduced and started talking about absolute value. Today we're going to continue on with absolute value. Absolute value is going to be the last thing that we cover this unit before we take our test on Friday. We looked at the quiz that you guys are going to be taking on Wednesday, tomorrow, and then the test that you're going to be taking on Friday as well. We worked with this a little bit yesterday with that Jamboard, and we're going to do that again today. You guys need a stylus. All right, it's something that is not really negotiable unless you think you can use your finger, which I have a feeling is going to be really hard. Because you're going to take your quiz, you're going to take your test on Schoology. So there's going to be questions that you have to write on Schoology to be able to answer the question. You're not going to be able to type. You're not going to be able to upload pictures. You're going to have to be able to write on your touchscreen on your Chromebook. So that's really going to be the only option for you. So you're either going to have to be able to have a stylus, write with your finger, or write with your mouse. And I know writing with your mouse is almost impossible because if I can't read it, then I can't grade it. And writing with your finger is tough as well. And so you need to get a stylus. You can get them super cheap. Okay, I told you guys, what was that, last Monday, the first day of school, that you needed one. So it's going to be super important. We're going to work with them again today. We're going to work with them with your quiz tomorrow. You're going to need one, and then your test on Friday. You're going to need one. Okay, so you have to have some way to write on this. For your homework, if you still want to print out the homework and then upload a picture, I'm perfectly fine with that. For tests, we just can't do that. For tests, you can't have your phone out, and so taking a picture of your work and uploading it doesn't really work because your phone can't be out. And so that's kind of the difference between a test and just your homework. So homework, I'm perfectly fine with it, but for when it comes to a test, we can't do that. Some of you have been typing. Two things with that. First of all, it's slow, not kind of, it is slow. And so your biggest issue you're going to come with that is your test is still going to be timed. You're going to have one class period to take it. And so when you're trying to type out all of these answers, you're going to run out of time, and you're not going to have enough time to do that. And so, again, just trying to stress, and we're going to do multiple things to kind of show you and that you can practice. You need a stylus. You need to be able to write on your touchscreen. Okay. I know it's hard. I do get it. I get it. I've been using this little tablet to write on that doesn't have a screen on it. It's just for writing. It took a while to learn how to use it as well. And so, yes, right now it might not be super easy, but you'll get used to it. And that's why we're going to practice it. We practiced yesterday. We're going to practice today. You're going to practice on your quiz tomorrow. You're going to kind of get that practice. Any questions, concerns with that? Okay, let's move forward then. So as you can see here, and as we talked about yesterday, we talked about solving absolute value equations. Today we're moving forward to talk about solving absolute value inequalities. All right, so remember that absolute value means distance from zero. All right, so when we're talking about absolute value of x equaling 3, we're saying that we know that x is 3 units from 0. Okay, we're saying that x is 3 units from 0. So we're saying that x can be at -3, or x can be at +3. We're saying it can be either one of those locations. So today with inequalities, it's the same type of thing. All right, we're still going to talk about distance from 0. It's just going to work a little bit different because with inequalities, it's not just a set number. So we know that if we're talking about greater than 3, it's anything that is 3 units or more from 0. Okay, so it's a little bit different if you do that. So let's look. So it says the absolute value of x is less than or equal to 3. And so again, what this is saying is x is less than or equal to 3 units from 0. Okay, so it means the same thing. Absolute value is still telling us the same thing. And so when we do this, if we thought about this just in terms of what numbers does that work for, okay, 3 units, less than 3 units from 0, we're saying, okay, -3 is less than or equal to 3 units from 0. +3 is less than or equal to 3 units from 0. 2 is less than or equal to 3 units from 0. 1, -1 is less than 3 units from 0. -2 is less than 3 units from 0. 0 is less than 3 units from 0. And so technically all of the numbers that would be less than or equal to 3 units from 0 are going to end up being all of these numbers here. Okay, and so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to have to create, just like we did with equations, we're going to have to create these 2 separate inequalities, and we're going to solve them separately and graph them separately. All right, and what's going to end up happening is we're going to get this here. It's going to be an and problem where one goes this way and one goes this way, and then our final answer is where they're overlapping here. Okay, but this simply means absolute value of x is less than or equal to 3, simply means x can be any number that is less than or equal to 3 units from 0. Okay, let's take a look at this next one. Same type of thing. Now we're saying that x is greater than 3 units from 0. Okay, so what this is saying here is that x can be greater than 3 units from 0. Well, what that's saying is x couldn't be 3 or -3 then, because those are exactly equal to 3 units from 0. But x could be 4, x could be 5, x could be 6, x could be -4, because that's also more than 3 units from 0. X could be 5, 6, and so on. And so what we're going to say here, it can be anything that is more than 3 units from 0, so going this direction. It doesn't include 3, so it'll end up being open. Same thing at -3. And all these numbers this way are also more than 3 units from 0. Okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to set up our 2 equations that is going to give us these 2 separate answers here. Now, we need to know, as you can see here, this is an and problem. This is an or problem, because and is where they overlap, or is where they're going most of the time separate directions, and either one can be a true answer. Okay, and so here We need to know when is it and, when is it or. And so we kind of have a little trick to help us remember that. So it says, like an absolute value equation, we are going to rewrite into two inequalities. Okay, so exact same thing we did yesterday. Exact same thing. We said isolate the absolute value, and then we are going to set up two equations where you have a positive version of the right side and you have a negative version of the right side. We're going to do the exact same thing here. Okay. The only thing that we're going to add in is we are going to also flip the sign. So that's not what. Yes, and we're going to flip the sign on our second inequality. So on the negative, okay, this negative one that we're changing, we're also going to flip the sign. So we didn't have to worry about that when we were talking about equations, but now that we're doing inequalities, it's a little bit different. And because when we talk about on the negative side being 4 units from 0, it's actually getting smaller. So as we move away from 0 on the negative side, it's less than. As we move away from 0 on the positive side, it's greater than. And so that's why we, on that second one, where we make it a negative, we also have to flip our inequality sign. This is why I told you a little trick. I don't care how you memorize it, but this trick might be helpful. Okay, if it's greater than, it's always an or problem. If it's less than, it's always an and problem. The little trick here, okay, if you think of great or, it's an or problem, so great or. Less than, it's an and problem. Okay, so if you kind of say it in your head, great or, less than, it can kind of help you remember which one is which. Okay, but anytime when we're doing absolute value inequalities, if after we get the absolute value by itself, it's a greater than problem, then it's an or problem. Anytime after we isolate the absolute value, it's less than, then it's an and problem. And we're going to graph it that way. We're going to answer it that way when we're doing it. All right, let's look at a couple of examples here. So it says solve the inequality, graph the solution, and write your answer in interval notation. I did notice some people on their homework, and I tried to comment on your homework. Make sure anytime you're doing inequalities that you're writing your answer in interval notation. Okay, remember that's where we use the parenthesis or the bracket, and then that's sometimes when we have infinity, something like this. Okay, so anytime we're doing inequality problems, your answer always needs to, your final answer always needs to be in interval notation. All right, so first example here. It says absolute value of x plus 1 is greater than 5. So again, what that is saying is this right here is more than 5 units from 0. And so the absolute value is already isolated, so I don't have to do anything there. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my two different inequalities. One being positive, one being negative, and the second one, the negative one, I'm going to flip the inequality sign. So I'm going to say x plus 1 is greater than 5. Now, this is a greater than problem. So is it or and? Think about that. Okay, great or. So this is an or problem. Then my second inequality here is going to be x plus 1. That doesn't change. I'm going to flip the sign, so less than, and now it's negative 5 instead of positive 5. So similar to what we did yesterday, but you have to flip the sign on the second one. And then I'm just going to solve those separately. So we need to subtract 1. X is greater than 4. Or subtract 1. X is less than negative 6. Now I'm going to graph that. So remember, if it's or, anything that we have is a solution. So when I graph this, I have open circle at 4 greater than open circle at -6 because it's not equal to, and then less than. Final step, write it in interval notation. Remember when we have these OR problems where we have two different branches, we need two different sets of interval notations with that U in the middle of them. So this is going to be negative infinity to -6, parenthesis, parenthesis. Remember we use parentheses whenever it's open circle. Union, so and 4 to positive infinity, again, both parentheses. This is actually your final answer here. This tells me what your final solution is. Okay, so you have that and you have the graph representing your final answer. Questions? Let's look at the next example. Actually, I want you guys to try this example on your own. So go ahead and try example 2 on your own, and then I'll work it out. All right, so let's take a look. So again, absolute values are already isolated, so I don't have to do anything there. This is a less than problem. Less than is always an and problem. So I'm going to set up my two inequalities here. So x plus 1 is less than or equal to 5. Notice there nothing changes. It's an and problem. So then x plus 1, flip the sign, is greater than or equal to -5. So I flip the inequality sign and I make it a negative. And then we just solve. So again, subtract 1. So x is less than or equal to 4. And subtract 1, x is greater than or equal to -6. We go down to our graph here. So we have closed circle at 4 going less than. We have closed circle at -6 going greater than. So remember, let's do this. With and problems, your final answer is where they overlap. Okay, it's where they overlap. And so when I'm looking at this problem, since it's an and problem, I need to show where my final answer is. If I just left my graph like this is incorrect. Okay, I need to show, I know that the final answer is from -6 to 4, closed circle, and all of this here. Okay, I need to show that I know just this part here is my final answer. All right, and then I'm also going to write that in interval notation. This time we'll only have one set of interval notation because it's just this one piece. The smallest number it can be is -6. The biggest number it can be is +4. It includes both of those numbers, so bracket, bracket. Questions? All right, let's look at the next two examples here. First one, again, remember, always have to isolate the absolute value first. That is the number one thing that we have to do. I saw some people yesterday set up there are two equations before they isolate. Number one thing we have to do here is get this absolute value by itself. Okay, so that's the very first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this into absolute value of 4x minus 10 is less than 18. All right, so get that absolute value by itself. Once the absolute value is by itself, now I can set up my two inequalities. So now I can say 4x minus 10 is less than 18. We need to think about if it's an and or an or problem. So I look here. Okay, that's less than. So that's an and problem. So and second inequality, 4x minus 10 is greater than, flip your sign, -18. Now I just solved both of those inequalities. So add 10, divide by 4. So we get x is less than 7. Add 10, divide by 4. So we get and x is greater than -2. So both of those are open circles. So open circle at 7. We're going less than. Open circle at -2. We're going greater than. So they overlap right here between -2 and +7. Okay, interval notation, -2 to 7, open circle, open circle. Questions before we do the last one? All right, last one, and then we're actually going to do another Jamboard today. All right, first step, always first step. And this one's a little bit different, guys. You cannot decide if this is an and or an or problem until you isolate the absolute value. All right, so you don't know if it's and or until the absolute value is isolated. So let's go ahead and do that first. The first thing we're going to do, you cannot combine 9 minus 5 and make that 4. Can't do that. That's like if I gave you this and you told me this is 4x. You cannot do that. Okay, so don't combine those at the very beginning. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 9. So I get -5, absolute value 7x plus 8, absolute value less than -30. Then we need to divide by that -5. So divide everything by -5. What do we do when we divide by a negative?
Flip the sign.
Flip the sign. Okay, so there's actually going to be a lot of flipping the sign going on here. So we divide by that -5, so we get 7x plus 8. We have to flip this sign, so make it greater than +6. That is why you cannot decide if it's an and or problem at the beginning, because now when we look at this, it's greater than, so this is an or problem. If you would have looked up here, it was less than, and that would have been an and problem. Okay, so now once we get there, now we can set up our two inequalities. So now we can say 7x plus 8 is greater than 6, or 7x plus 8 is less than, so flip your sign and flip the number. And then we solve that. So we get 7x is greater than -2. It's going to give us a nice fun fraction. X is greater than -2/7. Over here, subtract 8, we get -14. Divide by 7, we get x is less than -2. Again, remember it's an or problem, so we don't have to look at where they overlap on this one. We're just doing everything as an answer. So -2/7. Only thing I care about is you know where it's at. So you just need to realize, okay, -2/7 is between 0 and -1. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you need to know that it's going to be somewhere right here. All right, and then it is greater than, so we're going this direction. And then we have open circle at -2, less than, so there is my graph. Okay, final thing I need to do is write an interval notation. So we have -∞ up to -2, open circle, and -2/7 to +∞, open circle. There's my interval notation. Questions or concerns before we do a little bit of in-class work to kind of finish up class just like we did yesterday, or before you get to your homework after that? Again, main purpose of these Jamboards, guys, is immediate feedback. That's really the only thing. With me sitting here lecturing to you guys, I don't get a whole lot of, I can't walk around the class and look at your papers and ask questions. I don't get any immediate feedback as far as how well you're doing on these things. So that's the whole point of kind of implementing these Jamboards as much as possible, is I can give you immediate feedback. I can tell how well you're doing with this. It helps you immediately kind of make changes if you're struggling with something. So that's the whole point of us doing that. All right, let's do this. We're going to do the same type of thing today. Let me quit sharing this. It is going to be a Jamboard. Let me put the link in the chat. Okay, the link is in the chat. Once you get to that Jamboard, you're going to see the directions on the very first page. They're a little bit different today.
It's on view only again.
Thank you very much. I made the same mistake. Let's see. Editor. All right, you guys should be able to edit it now. So directions are on that first slide. You're going to do the same thing as yesterday, write your name on a blank slide. You're actually going to copy and paste the questions onto your slide. And then once you are done with a question, you're going to copy and paste that little done picture onto your slide so I can easily tell who's done and who's not done. Okay, so the directions are right there on that first slide. kind of explain what to do. So you copy and paste the questions onto your slide. You need to practice writing here. I don't want anybody typing. I don't want anybody uploading a picture. Okay, so no typing, no uploading pictures. Yes, Joey, I'll do that. Send an email out. Does that work, Joey?
Yep.
All right, I just sent that email, that message out.
I can figure out how to copy it over to my slide.
Control C will copy. Control V will paste.
Okay.
Got a lot of craziness going on here now. Anybody, did somebody delete the second question off here? Okay. Again, I'll just be scrolling through, looking at them. When you're done, put that done picture on your page and I will know to look at it. Make sure you write your final answers in interval notation. One thing I did learn, if you need to be, if you hit that plus sign up in the top left corner and zoom in, it should help you write smaller. So if you're like, I'm writing too big or I don't have enough room, if you zoom into the page, so if you click the arrow and make it 200%, or maybe make it 100%, it'll zoom into the page and it'll be easier to write smaller. Yes. Kind of cutting in and out, Gia. Thank you, Hector.
Maybe you'll be question. Can you please question on my slide?
Gia, maybe try typing it in the chat. It's like you're cutting in and out. I can't hear you.
Are we needing to draw them on a number line right now?
You don't have to draw them on a number line.
Okay.
So again, I'm just kind of scrolling through, looking for those done images. So when you get done with one problem, put that done image on there and I'll check that for you. Make sure you're writing to where I can read it. Once you get 2 check marks, you are good to go work on homework. If I write on your page, make sure that you fix that until you get a check mark. So for those of you that are still here, the one thing that I'm seeing probably the most when you write it in interval notation, make sure that you write the smaller number first. So you should be writing the negative infinity first, and then the u, and then you should be writing the positive infinity second. That was kind of a common mistake, guys. All right, that is time for class. So if you have any questions, reach out, let me know. And you have 1.5B homework for tonight. See you guys tomorrow. Get a stylus.